don't even want to calculate the number of runs, the number of wickets, that's for another day. But you will not get a more cricketing evening than this, and I think it's only appropriate. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. I'm also to say thank you very much to a few of our sponsors, 200 Not Out, ITC Maratha, who've put this all together for us, and Collectabilia. Okay, we've got more coming up. A class of, depending whether you want to call it 96 or 98, depending on whether they played together for the first time or whether they made their debuts that year. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got the entire class of 96 who made their debut together at this time. And can I call them in, well, maybe order in which they went out to bat most times? Number 3, Rahul Dravid. Number 5, Saurav Ganguly. And gently slipping in at number 6, the very, very special man himself. And then all those runs at number 4. You might want to come to your own function, Sachin. Come now. And if you'll pardon me 10 seconds, I'm going to get out of this frame because I don't think I belong to this frame for a while. Just look at that. That is Indian batting at its peak. You put Sehwag in there and there it is. Who's the numbers, man? How many runs between the two of you? If you ask Saurav who scored more, he'll tell you. But how many runs between all of you?
Saurav knows everything. I've forgotten. I've stopped playing almost 6 years now.
No, the four of you are still together. How much?
For a long time. But I remember when I first initially started batting with him, you know, I would bat at 3 and he would come in at 4. And I was this sort of young kid, and even though he was my age, he was a 7 years senior. He was my captain in the 3rd test match that I played, the one at Ahmedabad, or the one at Delhi, in fact, and against Australia. And, you know, he would walk in. And I would be a bit sort of nervous. Already you're quite nervous as a youngster, and you know, Sachin Tendulkar is coming in to bat with you. Firstly, don't get him run out, otherwise you're lynched. You know, so that's the first thought. But then anyway, he comes in and he sort of, you know, he'll ask you, what's happening? What do you think? And you're thinking, this is a guy who's like already the best batsman in the world. He's played a lot of, he's like scored over 10 test hundreds, or he played a lot of test matches. He's my captain. Is he taking the mickey, or do I really have to tell him, is he trying to like play the fool with me or to check me out? And so I would be a bit nervous, but in time sort of realized that was his real, humility, as Lakshan mentions it. There was that eagerness when he came in to want to know what is happening, what are the wicket conditions like, what's he bowling, does he have a dusra, does he have this thing? So initially it took me a bit of time to actually muster up the confidence to actually tell him that, I think, this is what's happening. It took me a few runs and a bit of confidence. But initially, I'd be like, everything's okay, don't worry. I'm sure you'll deal with it, don't worry.
The story he tells about you in the book, VVS, when he was fighting his way through. You don't normally use the expression fighting his way through for Sachin. And we're going to talk about that in detail to Ajit later on. And he was getting his 241. And he says one of his biggest problems when he was getting to the 241, and he was in denial, I'm not going to play the drive, I'm not going to play this. And he says at the other end, this guy was hitting boundaries for fun. 178 not out partnership, he was just hitting, and he's telling himself, no, don't. And you were just screaming boundaries at the other, and you're making it difficult for him, he says.
Again, it's humiliating, but I still remember the chat we had at the end of the Melbourne Test match. And I still remember in the dressing room, there was a separate room where we could have the television, where we could see the statistics of the players. And I remember Sachin came and both of us were alone there. And he just came and discussed. And during our career, there were a lot of occasions when we used to have these chats. And he told that he was playing brilliantly, but he was just getting out in freakish manner. If you remember, he got out down the leg side to Brett Lee in the first innings of Melbourne. And then we went to Sydney. He went ahead of me because he was batting at number 4. I would go in, he was I think on 30 or 40. But what really struck me was his control. And I've never ever seen any batsman in my career who could control his instinct so much as what I saw And I give example of that innings to everyone I talk, especially the youngsters, because usually we have game plan, usually we know what are the areas we are struggling and we don't want to play that shots initially. But once you get in, and you're able to see the ball better, you're judging the pace of the wicket better or the bounce of the wicket better, then you start to play all your shots. But here was a person, he was on 100, Simon Catich is coming to bowl, Damian Martin is coming to bowl, and he doesn't play a single cover drive. And I've never ever experienced that or seen that before. And I mean, that's probably one of the most scintillating innings of Sachin, and which I always mention to him. The other inning was the one against Pakistan in Chennai, where he was having severe back spasm, but he still continued to play and dominate the Pakistan bowling attack. There he could get over the pain and still continue to play. And here, he was able to control his instincts and still continue to bat the way he did. And that shows what kind of shots he had in his book. He completely cut down the cover area, but still was able to get more than 200.
Sachin, was it a bit like you're fasting and he's having all the prawns and crabs at the other end?
Not just in Sydney, generally it was like that, where half the world would be thinking that Lakshman is going to play cover drive and he'd be hitting through mid-wicket for a boundary, and that includes, the likes of Shane Warne, and I mean, I've not seen anyone play against Shane Warne, consistently hitting him against the spin on the rise. I mean, not many can do. Rather, I would say that the only one who did that consistently was him. And the special partnership between him and Jam was incredible. I mean, at the end of the third day, I remember in the evening we were all feeling low and all that. But 4 days effort between the two of them, I think they were competing who's going to outclass each other, and both just kept smashing boundaries. And the end of the 4th day, we started thinking differently, and it was because of their mega effort where, they had done something really, really special to turn around that series.
This is now,
Lachi was part of it.
this is the thing. So sort of when only one of you had to open the batting in one day cricket, how did you resolve that? When only one of you could go out to open the batting?
It was he who had to open. I had to bat somewhere else. And I've done that 3, 4, 5. He would open and I bat somewhere else.
Yeah, I batted a couple of times. I batted 4, right?
Yes, we did. I have done as well. He's done as well.
You had to always take strike also.
But one good thing is that I had.
Always to take strike as well.
I did one thing. I remember taking strike. I wasn't scoring runs, so I came up and told him, "Sach, can you take strike? I'm just struggling just to change the luck. 2 or 3 games." He said, "No, I never done that. You do it." So I said, "Fine, I'll do it." I was captain then. I was the only captain.
मेरा तो वैसे ही रन नहीं हो रहा था दादा,
I was the
तो
only
मेरे को लगा कि
captain.
मैं वहीं पे खड़ा रहूं.
I was the only captain who had to ask from my players, "Can I do this?" And no, it's true. So we both walked out. I was pretty annoyed. I said, "Come on, for one day you can do it." But I didn't say anything. We walked up. We both went past each other, and I just went and stood at the non-striker end. And then just find your place wherever you want to bat. So he went and took guard at the other end and played the first ball.
And took a single first ball, right?
I can't remember what happened. No, I think he got some runs. I think the problem is when he took strike for
बराबर
India.
सोच के बोलना.
I think the problem, it was against Pakistan, I think. I wasn't scoring runs.
There have been times. In fact, I remember we were playing in Guwahati, and I was batting with Dada. Shoaib bowls a short pitch ball where, about 5-7 feet away from me, it swings a little bit and gets in my rib cage. And I'm struggling, honestly. I mean, I only discovered later that I had fractured my rib. And I'm recovering, and Dada is saying, "Tu champion hai re, tu champion." I said, "I can't talk." So I'm struggling to talk. I've broken my rib. And he said, "Tu champion hai, tu khelega." I said, "Let me recover."
Now you wanted to open the batting in the 2003 World Cup, and he wanted to open the batting in the 2003 World Cup as well. So how did you resolve that?
It got resolved. You saw on TV who batted at number 3, didn't you?
But
You're still asking that question.
the first
because
couple
there's
of
a
practice matches, I batted 4.
There's a
It's all practice matches because he was never up for practice matches.
There is a reference in the book to him batting at 3 or 4 in the warm-up games, and expressing a desire to open the batting in the main World Cup.
Who's Sachin's desire? It's always been the desire. And anytime you asked him to bat at 4, he will tell you, I'll do it, but I'm better off opening.
But you let him bat at 4 in the NatWest Trophy.
Yeah, I did a few times and we requested him. Even in the World Cup, Anil came, in the practice matches we had decided that he'll bat at number 4. Anil came before the start of the tournament and said, if we have to do well, we need runs at the top. And he felt that the best way was to get him to open, and that's when we decided that we'll open. John Wright was there with his tongue half out, still not agreeing to it that he should open. But he opened and he had a great World Cup.
The two of you had another very interesting partnership together. Not at Sydney, where you put on 353 together, but in a game where scoring 100 was difficult. And that was Mumbai 2004, when he was barely able to grip the bat because the elbow had started to come up again. And both of you put on 100 runs?
In fact, yesterday I was telling that was probably, apart from the Sydney 300-run partnership, the one at Wankhede and the one at Eden Gardens in 2002 against West Indies in the second. He got 100, I got 100. But we saved the test match. If we wouldn't have had that partnership, we would have probably lost the test match. I think, Wankhede was probably the worst wicket. I don't think so there was a wicket in fact.
We are in Mumbai.
Doesn't matter, but I don't think so that there was a wicket, because the match finished in 2.5 days. The first day hardly there was any game played, but I think more than that partnership, the way we played in that partnership was important. Even on the wicket where stroke play was difficult, both of us were getting boundaries and we were able to dominate the Australian bowling attack. So I think for me, I've always mentioned that is a match winning or a match saving partnership is more important than just having numbers. I think that partnership was very memorable.
Am I allowed to take some credit for that as well, for making Lakshman bat at 3 in that innings and batting lower down?
And you thought Rahul Dravid is this good boy, right? Go on. You sent him up
No, I think, we promoted Lax because I was batting and they saw that wicket was really turning.
So you thought you'd rather
much
stay
better.
than he goes out to bat. I know you don't want to put it that way, but it seems that way. The wicket was turning, so I sent him up.
Yeah, so I'll bat lower down when it turns more. No, because I just felt we needed someone who could play positively, and I was going to go out there and try and block the hell out of it. So at least Lax would go and play positively, play some shots along with Sachin. And it was a brilliant partnership, and it's a great test match to win because defending 104 in the last innings, it was an incredible test match, and they added that partnership was the one that changed the game.
There's a lot of talk in the book about the atmosphere in the team. A lot of you seem to place a lot of store on atmosphere in the team, and you talk about how it was when John Wright was the coach and how it was when Gary Kirsten was the coach and how it was therefore when Greg Chappell was the coach. Does that make such a difference? Because finally when you go out onto the field, it's you, right? So did that make such a difference that a coach could ensure, VVS talks about coming in 2006 into the side and seeing the atmosphere was completely different? Does that make such a difference?
It does, because in the end, when you're going out to bat, you want to go with a relaxed frame of mind because already there's so much of expectation from you. You are having a huge responsibility. You're representing the entire country. And I've always maintained cricket is not just a sport. It's a religion in our country. It's a passion for each and every Indian. So already there's a lot of, not pressure, but expectations. So when you go out, you have to go with a relaxed frame of mind. Only then can you actually go out and play with a free mind because cricket ultimately is a game where you have to enjoy. It is a sport. And it's not a job or it's not a profession. So until and unless you're not enjoying that, you will not be able to play to your potential. So I always respected that. And there were times, when, especially during 2006, it was definitely the toughest period for me as far as the dressing room atmosphere is concerned.
Sachin, you write in the book about saying that you didn't want Chappell with you in the 2007 World Cup. You've mentioned in the book that you would have been better off if you'd not been there in the 2007 World Cup.
Yeah, I've written that in my book, and the only reason I felt was I agree with Lakshman that the atmosphere could have been better. It wasn't a healthy atmosphere. The atmosphere has to be such in the dressing room where it brings the best out of you in the middle. And I felt that wasn't happening, and then the environment was very negative, I felt, and it was just a downfall from there on. So I thought maybe, if we travel without that, it would definitely change the atmosphere in the dressing room. And I also said that we senior players are willing to take all the responsibility and will manage the team.
Was 2007 the lowest point for all four of you, or were there others?
I guess when you play 16 years or 20 years of first class cricket, you're going to find a lot of ups and downs. I mean, if I were to look at my career over, I guess, the 20 years that I played first class cricket in, there were some really good moments and there were some tough moments. And 2007, for me, especially as a captain, was a really tough moment. It was a really difficult time as well for me, just in terms of not qualifying for the World Cup. But I guess 7 years later, when you move on from a lot of these things, you realize that there are also some pretty good times that you've had, and there are some ups and there's some downs, and that's the way sport is, and that's the way I guess life is.
Was for you the lowest point as well? 2007?
Yeah, not qualifying for the World Cup was very, very disappointing because I didn't know whether I would make it to the World Cup in 2007. And then when I did, I thought we had a great side to get to the end. Unfortunately, we didn't. I think we had the strongest side in 2007 for the World Cup in the West Indies, but obviously couldn't win. But we had some good things happening after that, winning in England when Rahul was captain, those test series after 25, 26 years. And it really felt good because, yes, World Cup's good, it's one-day cricket, but going away and winning in England in those conditions was very, very satisfying. So we had tough times, we had some good times. But then, as Rahul said, it was tough. It was probably toughest for me, but that's the way it goes.
There's a lot in the book about these four people playing cricket together, and that's one of the more enjoyable things. We've all watched it from a television screen sometimes, from far away sometimes, but they had a lot of fun, and you give us a lot of fun as well. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, on final time, Rahul Dravid, Saurav Ganguly, VVS Lakshman. Thank you very much, gentlemen.